When we started this project, we looked at few things: location, accessibility, and the potential for growth. All these things make sense from a homeowner and investor's point of view. But we wanted to do more than that. We decided to offer services as well. This means providing infrastructure like water and electricity, as well as internal roads to widen the accessibility to properties, especially for the first-time buyers. A lot of people are buying land these days, but can't either access it for the next 2 to 3 years, and even if they get access, they would lack the basic infrastructure we offer to start building right away. This project allows you the freedom to choose whatever structure you want to build yourself, allowing freedom of choice in one of the fastest developing areas in Gunjur, Sifo. And since this project was created with the preservation of its lush natural environment in mind, we call it Greenville, the first and only NEA certified housing project in the Gambia, with close to 700 units available. This is an offer any environmentally conscious buyer would not pass up. Call us today and arrange a tour with one of our agents and see the beauty and potential of Gunjur Sifo.
Assalamu alaikum once again. We are back, and greetings to all of you all over the world. And today also Gunjur News Online is back to discuss the burning issues, especially on Gambian matters. You know, once again, you are with me, your host and presenter, Ibrahim Scattred Janneh. Equally, as always, we have two important guests here. One is new to the platform. The other one is a regular feature on our platform, you know, and no need to introduce him when he comes anyway. But we have a burden, a very, very young intellectuals whose work we have been, I know, most of the time he don't want people to say he's doing fantastic work. He's one of his pieces, he says he's going to take it with a pinch of salt. But definitely we appreciate what this young individual has been doing in investigative journalism. And I believe and I think all journalists should be investigative journalists. Anything that they are going to put to the public need to be investigated thoroughly, so that at least facts can be on the table. Once again, I will invite this guest, and whose name is Mustapha. And Mustapha Darboe, Mustapha Swandi, as he normally write. And also my own brother, Sulayman Ben Suwareh, who is not new to you on this platform. And I'll say welcome to all of you. Mustapha, welcome to Dialogue with the Youth So on Gunjur News Online. And Brother Ben, welcome also again, once again, Gunjur News Online, your program, Dialogue with the Youth So.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, thank you, Mustapha. Mustapha, we will briefly going to start with you so that at least, you can explain yourself and introduce yourself to our viewers all over the world. I know everybody knows you from the Gambia, or most of the Gambians, I should say, to be in a safer side. But anyway, we want you to just introduce yourself briefly. One or two people might be looking here from leagues, who don't know you. So Mustapha, briefly tell our viewers, all over the world who you are.
So I'm Mustapha Kedabo. I work with a platform called Malagan. We're actually a team of 5. Yeah, we do investigative journalism. Of course, I do some freelancing as well, but yeah, I'm here as Malagan.
Thank you, Mustapha.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've been very, very modest with that anyway. So, anyway, but as you know, most Gambians will know, Mustapha has been an award-winning journalist in the Gambia for a couple of years now. But that's not by chance, and that's not a coincidence. Following his post and his reports all over the place, especially on Malagan, you will know why that is so. Brother Ben also, welcome, Brother Ben. Just briefly, say hi to our viewers.
Yeah, Ebrima, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity again. And I'm saying hello to everyone out there. And again, to say welcome, Brother Mustapha, and for accepting this invitation to come on so that we can deal with this report, a very important report, and other insightful things that we need to discuss. Thank you very much for giving us the platform again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you and welcome, Brother Ben. I will start with Mustapha. I think Mustapha, just before we jump into the report, a few days ago, we saw a letter that's been circulating on the social media from Hon Edward Gomez, SC, and this is good news, definitely, because people have been investigating and they are writing, and we see a response. The response anyway is in sometimes threatening to me anyway, but it's good, because somebody need to unearth all these informations for this to be a topic, for people to talk about it, because as I said, it's always difficult, very, very difficult for journalists or anybody else, to trigger people to care so that they can look around and say, this is not right. And I think, the investigation that you did, that's what it does to us. A lot of people cares now and they start raising their voices and all those things, but, one thing that the letter said, you have, that is, it said, you have a source at the, at the most of the government department was specifically, the National Audit Office that Mustapha has source there. That's why he have access to all these things. Mustapha, do you have a source in the Gambian National Auditing Office, NAO?
So actually, the thing is, it's complicated. You see, the truth is that the National Audit Office has a mandate to investigate and ensure that public money is put into right use. That mandate has been granted to the supreme audit body in the country by the Constitution. And in that capacity, they do both the audit of the government accounts, which is a yearly activity, and they do what is also called special audits. So, for example, they look at matters of concern to the public, and they, like, if there is any specific issue that is of huge importance, they look at it based on their good judgment, and then they audit it. Those things they call special audits. And when these audits are done, they actually they are obliged to share it with the National Assembly committees and to share it with the Office of the President through the Secretary General's office, and also the institutions concerned. Now, if anybody knows audit processes, you know that when an institution is audited, whether it's a government institution or not, before that audit product goes out, it's that institution force that gets to have access to it through what is called a management response. So all the findings of the auditors will be put before the management, and the management will have to offer an explanation, and the auditors will react based on that, will make their own conclusion based on the evidence they have and the response that the management made. So clearly, security report was in no doubt, had access to the audit report. The Office of the Secretary General had access to the audit report. The Minister of Interior had access to the audit report. The Auditor General's office had concluded this report already. And then this audit also can be found at the National Assembly. It's everywhere. So I don't need to have source in the National Audit Office to have access to it. It's just everywhere. And the government of the Gambia has recently signed an access to information law, which actually obliged the government to do what's called a proactive disclosure. Am I coming clear?
Yeah, you're coming out loud. Yeah,
You're coming very clear, Mustapha.
Yeah.
Very, very clear.
Yeah. So, and this access to information law requires national audit, requires Gambia government to do what's called a proactive disclosure of information, which means Gambia government should not sit down for citizens to come and say, we need to know how much the salary of the president is. They should gather all those informations, anything relevant to governance, anything that will foster participatory development in governance. All that information should be in the respective website of respective government agencies. That is what proactive disclosure means. Now, that means that Gambia government must not, and must not sign any contract document and sign some stupid non-disclosure laws inside it, because they already have a law which says that contract documents that are about public finance, that are supposed to be done in a transparent manner, and they are supposed to be made public, such that the Banjul project documents should actually be on the website of the finance ministry.
Yes.
If there is nothing to hide in it, it should not be stuck in some cupboard of some guy. The security report contract should be on the website of the finance ministry. These are documents that are of concern, legitimate public interest issues, that the law that the president just assented to, signed into our law, the act called Access to Information Law, required the president, requires every public officer to make information relevant to citizens public. So in the first place, I should not have gone to any state institution to have access to what they claim I have access to. Every citizen should have, my job should have just been helping citizens to make sense of it, but not to access the information. The information it's illegal to keep it. You see, and the foundation of democracy is that people who are in authority governs with the authority of the people. So this president, because we've given him the combined authority of our individual rights. He is president because he is acting on behalf of every Gambian. That is the reason why it is only logical that anything the president does in our name, we get to have the right to have access to that information. You see? So that is why when they go to sign a contract with any private company in the name of service to the Gambian people, we should have access to that. Because if we don't have access to that, you're simply telling us you are lying. You are signing it in your pretending that it's in our interest. Because whatever is in our interest, if it's not a classified information, how can we not have access to that? Unless it's a situation of potential national security issue you don't want people to know. We know there are things governments all over the world keep from the citizenry for their greater good, but that is not a contract document. A contract, public works contract document, you see. So the idea of whether I have a source at the National Audit Office or not did not even arise, because whatever National Audit Office do They are even required to put it on their website. So this audit report actually should be on the National Audit website anytime from now because it's finalized. Yeah, so it's just sad that a private company that claims to have done nothing wrong and wrote to the government. And so if you read their audit, you read the letter they wrote, it speaks volume of the kind of the people we are dealing with, and also their perception, the people in public office. Because if they know about our access to information law, yet they had the guts to write to second law and the president of the republic criticizing a minister for doing his job and the National Audit Office for doing their job, and even asking the president to investigate the Supreme Audit Office of this country. It's an insult. Yeah. Someone writing to the highest office of our country, asking our president to investigate our auditor general. He's supposed to just do. It's pathetic, really, because it's the job of the National Audit Office to audit any kind of institution to ensure that public purse is protected. That's the job of the Auditor General. So if he in fact admit me and in fact help me, he's just doing his job.
Definitely, yes.
You see, but the thing is, so the issue of National Audit Office did not even arise. I got a lot of things I didn't even know exist at the National Audit Office. But those are, if you read my report, I have been to several places, and a lot of sources I met, I mentioned their names.
Yes.
Some of them I mentioned their names, former employees of the airport and this and that and that. I mentioned their names. And as for the contract document that they said is totally normal, how is that confidential? A contract document of some software at the airport and some scanners and computers and facial recognition, that's confidential. How? So that's the sad reality.
Yes,
of our situation.
that's really. I'm really upset, if I am saying, not only surprised but upset. You know, the audacity of the letter to ask our highest authorities to demand them to do what they want them to do. But anyway, I think the OP reduced themselves to this situation to the extent that an external small company can have the audacity to write such letter to the office of the president or to the president itself. Mustapha, but contracts drives their legitimacy from laws. Those secure report contract follows this due diligence. As claimed by their lawyer, because at least they should have some kind of legitimacy, to come, boldly, in a negative way, because it's an insult to our country and the dignity of all of us, to write such letter and to demand things, the control they have. Do you think they have any legal space here in terms of the legitimacy of our law and the procedure that they follow, that they are banking on, to give them this, daring to speak or to act whatever they like, how they want it? Is there any legitimacy there?
So the first thing is that public officers are within their can act within the law in a manner that's of public interest on behalf of the citizenry. So if there are legitimate concerns that this country needs some kind of service at our airport, and that this service cannot be provided from within the Gambia, the public officers are within their rights to make some consultations and see how to best solve that. But that must be done within the confines of law and practice, such that if they are going to go into a contract with a public company, there are procedures and laws that are laid down in this country to follow procurement practices. So, for example, there is what is called the Gambia Public Procurement Agency, whose job it is to make sure that they verify and vet every Gambia government procurement issue and make sure that it's done the right way and that the value for money is attained. That every penny that is spent comes to benefit the people on whose behalf the government is spending the money. And the second thing is that there is what is called a public-private partnership department, which is under the finance ministry. This particular department is supposed to, it exists on the funding of the World Bank so that it can help the government to review all public-private partnership documents. Because you see, there are two things in the Gambia. We should know that this system we have is built by people, and the people who build these systems, they understand the flaws. They can dribble past any hurdle. So they come with sham things like cabinet approval, such that they can use the highest decision-making body in this country to evade a procurement process. They come with things like emergency procurement. You know, they create situations to react to it. That is the reason why when the World Bank and others saw that Gambia government officials are behaving this way, and they are using some sham terms to evade proper procurement processes. You could see what happened in Banjul. So they would say emergency procurement, they take it to the cabinet just bypassing the procedure and law. And they did that also during COVID, you've seen it. And the procurement in Turkey turns out to be a disaster. Price inflations, little over $1 million. You could access this information on the Malagan website.
Yes.
A lot more. So those kind of loopholes exist in the procurement law, which allows the president, office of the president, and the cabinet to bypass the procurement law, to bypass Gambia Public Procurement Agency in the name of national security, and they can create this situation anytime, anyhow, and you know, and they go sit in the cabinet and even have the guts to. A cabinet that has no civil engineer can have the guts to approve a civil engineering project. Of this is a national security matter, or this is an emergency situation. So when they see that they made an amendment, World Bank sponsors an amendment to the Gambia Public Procurement to address some of those loopholes. The National Assembly took that amendment and they put it on the desk. From 2018, 2019, it's there. They're refusing to put it on the agenda. Now, the other loophole is the public-private partnership department. This institution exists so that all unsolicited proposals that are received through the State House, because it's always been a practice, corrupt practice, that when they know that if you go to GPPA, you're going to go through a lot of people and the processes are going to be big, and the bureaucracy is there for a reason. So the more people there is, the lesser the chances of bribery. So now, they now get to get all proposals to the office of the president. So when development practitioners who are keen in developing this country saw that fraud, they said, okay, let's help them also establish a public-private partnership department. This will be a technical wing that can review all unsolicited proposals that are received by government, PPP, and all the technical and the financial proposals that are received by government. So a cabinet wouldn't have to constitute some stupid task force to address, because that's easy. The president can just receive a proposal and call some bunch of his boys to say, this is a task force, and whether the task force agrees or not, it will still go anyway. We've seen how the cabinet has approved a lot of projects, and the story is in the details. Look at those project documents, security contract being one of them. So when they saw that, they established PPP, and The PPP bill has existed for, I can't remember when. They refused to put it before the National Assembly. Each time they are saying cabinet validated it. In fact, the president in the Shona, this State of the Nation address, said the cabinet approved this the PPP bill. Yeah, it's not been passed until now. Because when it's passed, going to make it a requirement for them to put all unsolicited proposals before public-private partnership department, which is not, may not necessarily mean that there will be no corruption, but at least it could be minimized. You see, this particular proposal we're talking about has not been viewed by the public-private partnership department. They bypass them and they are on the obligation to do so. Because the institution is a statutory body like GPPA. So that's a gateway. That's why I don't like our politicians or our political parties, because I do not see them to have exist to further the interest of the people of the Gambia. Because these are issues that they must have addressed if they had any interest in the life and the future of the people of this country. And then you have the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Anti-Corruption Bill. That has always been on the desk of the National Assembly. The clerk of the National Assembly's office refuses to put it on the agenda. I use the word refuses because there is no other way to explain it. An important bill like that, the most consequential bill in the life of the last assembly and in this assembly is that anti-corruption bill. It's the most consequential bill. They keep putting it out of the agenda every time. And you have National Assembly members who are saying, we cannot approve this bill. This bill is against the culture of this country, because culture of our people to accept gifts.
Wow.
You see, now, so you have all those processes and procedures that the government, the president, the ministers, the National Assembly members, the clerk of the National Assembly's office are all aware of. And they know that there's a failure of these three, of either the constitution of the Anti-Corruption Commission or the refusal to amend the GPPA, even though they keep telling about it, and the refusal deliberately to pass the public-private partnership bill into law, deliberate refusal. The excuse is just a damn lie. I'm sorry for the French, but that's the reality. And those three things are the reasons why we are where we are. Because accountability instruments help us these laws help us to measure accountability. They help us to hold people to account. If we have a PPP Act, if you do not put this proposal before PPP, we could tick that as a box that you violated the law. You see, so these loopholes exist so that the cabinet, and to add insult to injury, the office of the president, having seen the opportunity to express this scenario, had constituted what he called the Office of the Investment at the Office of the President. What does it do? Nothing, other than bringing investors to come and meet the president, so-called investors to come and meet the president. From 2017 to now, it has brought us nothing but disaster. It's one stupid project to another, or one fraud to another. That's been the history of that office. You have Gambia Import and Export Promotion Agency with capacity to handle any kind of investment portfolio in this country, and with the technical expertise to advise on any kind of investment in this country. They create another investment in State House, a duplication which is only intended to improve on fraudulent procurement processes and investment schemes. You would have probably read our stories, whether it's the passport scandal, the story we did on some so-called investors. People took advantage of bypassing, using the office, the might of the presidency to bypass all procurement and reasonable restrictions that are in place. So these are some of the issues. And to come back to the security issue, so this project did not go through GPPA. It did not go through the public-private partnership. It went directly to the president. The president sent it to the Office of his investment. And this Office of Investment created some so-called task force. If they are properly wanted to do some right thing, they could have sent it to public PPP department. They review it. If we establish the technical and the financial needs of this project and we know what is required, we could simply take it back to the Gambia Public Procurement Agency. We could sit down and establish our own specific. What kind of security do we need at the airport? What kind of portfolio do we need at our airport? What kind of software do we need at our airport? Can our immigration in fact do this? Which I can tell you they can.
Yeah,
right?
Mustapha, Mustapha, I'm going to come there. You know, where I'm going to, my next question to you will be the need assessment, whether that was performed, whether Gambia need this, what is their worth investment, you know, and what kind of security or what specific or special software do they have that the Gambia security cannot do, the immigration and the Gambia Security Service. But I'll go to Uncle Brother Ben before coming to you for that next question, so that you can have a cup of tea or you can sip on your tea or drink on your water to relax. And but before going to Ben, we have Lamin Gambia who said, "Greeting Mr. Suwareh and Mr. Mohammed."
You frozen? It seems that Ebrima is frozen. Let me just interject there. Thank you very much, Mr. Darboe. Actually, I am a guest here, but I am to benefit from your presence here. That's why you are invited. And the reason is a very important report. And when this project was unveiled, some of us came out and just to show, to when oppose against it without even having the details that have been provided from your investigation. That's why I keep on saying the brilliant job you do with your team at Mulligan in everything that you report. Every quarterly, when you bring out reports, issues that are important, and you do your job to the extent that Gambians have the information required in order to take an action that will ratify or progress the need for country. And this is the reason you are invited here. Now, what's our role here? You are back now.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and sorry about that. You know, for some reason the internet just frozen here. You know, I just want to say hi to our viewers, Mohammed Fai, and I have Dr. Ahmad Scattred. He said a contract entered into our on our behalf cannot be confidential. He continued to say it seems they are unwittingly saying, you know, your report is accurate. That is referring to Mustapha, but they are upset at your source of information. You know, and Lamin Gambia says American company hustling in the Gambia. Is Gambia, Afghanistan to have facial recognition software? How does facial recognition data help the government, you know, for handling security? They're merely doing their business, you know. And greetings to our viewers all over the world, you know, and wherever they are. The whole purpose is, you know, corruption has been endemic in the Gambia, you know, and Bob, Ben and Mustapha, I'll come there because might be Gambian people doesn't take their lives very seriously to allow persistently these corruptions to flare and to mushroom, you know, and we just talk about it. The reports will come, dig into it, and Gambians will stay put. You know, not the National Assembly, not the civil society organization, political parties are almost dead. I'm happy Dr. Scattred Janneh is here. You know, probably, you know, we don't know why, parties are dormant, in the wake of all this, mess that is in the country that's going to consume all of us at the end of the day. Ben, first of all, what do you think about this report or this letter that was sent by Edu Gomez? The desperation, the audacity of this government, or the audacity of Secure Report and their lawyer to threaten the president, to threaten, our other branches of our government, to threaten the ministries, individuals, and all those things, and kind of, in essence, the swinging their fingers. If you don't this is what we are doing. This, do they have the president in the loop for them to have this and all the other people in the cabal, knowing that they are solid, their hands all over the place, to the extent that they can have this audacity to write such a letter? What's your take on the report and everything, but this letter and how you just link that to the report? Because we've been talking a lot about the report, and we will just going to cherry pick here and there and go ahead. Go ahead, Ben. Ben, you are in mute, Ben. I think you are mute, Ben.
The importance of the letter is, is to point to the importance of the report. And now let's go back to where I'll come back to the letter, but to get to a point here. What do Gambians do with information? Such important information. If an institution does their job, a journalist does their job, a Maligan did their job and keep on doing their job from every report they have done. Okay, let's point to this one. They came out with all the information that is required for Gambians to take action to make sure this thing is ratified. Now, this is where the question should be. What are we doing? As individual citizens, what are we doing about this? Yes, we are doing, us here, we are continuing to talk about this in order for people to get up and make sure something is done about this. What are the civil society institutions doing about this? They have got all the information required to take legal action or to show their disagreement in a democratic manner. What does the political parties have to do with this? They have all the information required to hold the government accountable, to hold Scattred accountable, to make sure the situation is redressed. Now, if we look at what this document is about, this letter is about, it's about intimidation. They're trying to intimidate the people. They are trying to intimidate the people in order to silence us. They don't want an open society. They don't want transparency, and they don't want accountability. Because as we have just heard from Mr. Darboe, nothing, what have been done here is the right thing to be done, to make sure information reaches the people. This information should not be secret, should be available. Government should be making it available. It's a mandate. As we have the Information Act, they should be making it available in portals where that Gambians should have access to it, not to deny Gambians. The National Audit Office have done their job, and the citizens have stepped up to do their job. Now, what do they have to fear? That would be the question. Why they don't want people to discuss this? Why they don't want the information to be available? Because they have something to hide. If they don't have something to hide, they will not want. They will not have problem with the information being shared. But again, the audacity to write a letter now to hold, to push, to force the government to act, and actually the government has started to act. The government have contacted the Interior Ministry to try to act on something illegal. But the only reason, as you ask, for this company to have the audacity is because of they bought the government, because they bought the people concerned. That's why they have the audacity to speak to them the manner they did. They have the audacity to write a letter. But again, it's not only the failure of government, it's the failure of the people. Be the political party, be the civil society, and us citizens. If we had shown enough outrage, this company would have gone underground. But they would not have tried to come out to push back. And they are pushing back. And if we sit back again, what they will do, they will achieve their aims. And once they achieve their aims, then everything else continue, and the impunity continue into that country. And impunity continue into that country, that is unrest, because that's a failed state. Where there's no accountability, there cannot be order. Where there's no order, there cannot be peace. And we know the absence of peace is instability. And this is the word that they don't want to hear, been uttered by people. But this is the fact we are talking about here. Now, they are trying to intimidate the people here for accountability purpose. All the people, the institutions approach are institutions that have mandate to speak to us. Then Mulligan did the right thing by going to these institutions to lift the information from them, one way or the other. And we understand that if it was a completely free society, Mulligan would have named all their sources. But there's a reason, good reason for that matter, not to name all the sources. But they have named sources where it matters. Mr. Ablai Janneh is not an ordinary citizen, not an ordinary person in the case of things. He was the former managing director of the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. He has authority to speak, and he spoke and given his name to be to be quoted out there. The employee been sacked for voicing out have been noted. Now, the Ministry of Justice, without calling out the person spoken to, have been referred to. Now, if the information was wrong, the Ministry of Justice would have come out to say that no, we haven't hold this position, the information is wrong. The Minister of Tourism would have come out to say that no, this information is wrong. The other stakeholders in the tourism industry would have come out to say the information is wrong. But they are not challenging the information. What they're doing is trying to intimidate. And now the government is trying to structure a way of getting out of this, either to silence or to divert or to mislead. Next minute, they are going to organize a press conference. And that press conference will be part of lies, and in order to discredit. But again, that's up to us, because Gambians are easily distracted. We are easily distracted, and our institutions are not functional. As Mr. Darboe have mentioned here, the National Assembly have failed, but civil society have failed, political parties have failed. And we should have made distinction. Not only parliamentarians should act, political parties as institutions have stake, and you don't have to be big or small. If you register yourself as a political party, you have a mandate to give to the Gambian people. And it's dishonest to register a political party and not to be active. That's completely dishonest. We should not equip it so the outcome of elections or what. If that is the case, then deregister yourself and get out of the forum. If you are within the forum, we expect your participation. You cannot take an excuse that because of people voted or the elections been stolen as other narratives should not be enough. We should continue to hold accountability. And Ebrima, as I said, and I am going to follow to Mr. Darboe, because what I want here is more information from Mr. Darboe than my opinion. And because we want to go through that report and drive in the facts for Gambian people to have it. But we are holding this discussion in order to see action taken from all ends that needed to take action in order for this impunity to stop.
Thank you, Ben. As always, we are just going to jump to you sometimes for your intervention, so that at least Mr. Darboe can have a little bit of break, you know, and probably sip in his tea or coffee or water. You know, Mustapha, I'm coming back to you just to, in your report, whether you discover if any need assessment performance need assessment was performed, you know, to ascertain that the need for security report, you know, and their services in the Gambia is needed, you know, and also you know, what is their worth of investment, whether you have any information about that in your investigations, and what kind of security are they talking about here? Because if you say civil security, airport security or whatever, that's very, very vague to me, actually, for we to know definitely this is the certain security, the particular security they are looking for, and this is the software that they have. And also, in your report, the government, our government are putting their hands up. They say, we are not contributing anything in this whole thing. It's everything secure report. But the tax breaks and all those things, you can explain that to us. You know, this is inside also, because already the immigration department, our Gambia immigration department, with the support of the Japanese, according to your report, you know, through the International Organization of Migration, has already started a similar program in our country. And the immigration they are in control of our land borders. And these immigrations, you know, they have the migration information data analysis system also in place. Can those not be used in our airport and provide the security if we know the kind of security that they are talking about? Go ahead, Mustapha.
Yes, you see, there are a lot of issues here that we need to talk about. The first is, see where Ben left it. That's very important to talk about. We analyze, see that Amnesty International right now is taking interest in corruption. And you know why? Because the corruption, it's an established fact that corruption becomes, sorry, I got distracted. Someone just sent me a text. Corruption has become a key motivation factor for human rights abuses, because the reason why leaders tend to stay in power and they tend to find other means to oppress the people is because they are corrupt. It's because they have gathered a lot of unexplained wealth. So they tend to be oppressive in order to stay in power. So corruption and human rights, corruption is the mother that gives birth to human rights violation. It's the mother that gives birth to right abuses. Now, if you look at this particular letter and the reaction of the government towards it, and you look at the reaction of the government towards the Banjul project, you would have realized that we are trading along the line of a very dangerous path right now. You see, we are escalating steadily, and I'm not sure whether people have realized. You know, human behavior is such that things just don't happen by accident. Nobody just picked up a gun and shot someone. It escalates from one level to another. The first thing, there were initiatives to, now the government began as a transparent one. They were holding press conferences, office of the minister, office of the president, everybody. Then they started reducing the numbers. Then they stopped. Now they are making deliberate efforts to stop leakages. We have even passed that now. Deliberate efforts to stop leakages have passed. Now they are pulling who leak information. They are punishing people who leak information. From there, they are going after the messenger. That's how it happens. And if you've seen right now, that's the phase we are right now. We are at the phase of going after the messenger. Because the security report had asked them to investigate me, find out every source I am dealing with, and punish them for talking to me. And government had accepted that. Because that is the reason why they had a meeting at the Interior Ministry to devise means, some so-called means to improve the contract in the name of improving the contract, and devise means to put the charges in the ticket. That's not the point. The point is they are trying to find the people who are giving me information to punish them. So that is a very dangerous situation we are in. And I don't know whether people are watching, but it should be something that should concern everybody.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And sometimes we tend to not take interest in this kind of things. But political, you see, these guys, they don't care about, they make us busy about tribe. Who cares about who is a Fula and who is Mandinka in this country? Nobody goes, you know how many Fulas and Mandinkas are going hungry every day? They pass them on the road. They don't even stop. They don't. The folks are lying outside on the road and they are starving. Folks are dying at EFSTH next door to the office of the president, next door to the seat of the most important office in this country, and they are dying. People put up on a bus and come to Banjul to take their people to hospital. They don't have a place to lodge. They don't have money to go to a motel or a lodge or a hotel. They sleep outside on the roads in Banjul, right in front of the hospital. The president passes them. There are a bunch of Sarahules, Fulas, and Mandinkas. You think he stops and say, who is Fula here? Let me give them money and isolate them from the rest of humanity. He doesn't do who is Sarahule here. So they make us busy as if they care about, when they are sending their children to Banjul, to America. Do you think they care who is Mandinka and who is? It's their children they send to America, right? So, but why do they need to sell us an ethnic narrative? Because an ethnic narrative helps them create an unthinking following. So they give them something to be busy over. Professor Pielo Lumumba puts it better. He calls it feel-good effect. That you are happy that the person who is in the office is
closer to you,
this particular tribe, and that's my tribe. It's my tribe ruling. But what has this person that is ruling has a contract with you? He's not fulfilling that, but you are happy that he is violating you. You are happy that he's taking your money and spending it. I just saw someone, Watson Gambia, was saying there was no electricity or water running, water at EFST, RBTH. I'm sorry, I just derailed a bit, but I'll come to your question. I was saying there was no water at EFST. And I was here thinking, we are talking about a contract right now. We are talking about a contract where they give an extension years to a contract for a delay of 18 months and still give them and still pay them for that same delay. So say for example, do you know how much 4.5 million United States dollars can do for EFST, Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital? It can end their electricity and water problem.
Yes.
For years. EFST is where everybody goes. It's where all the Fullers, all the Njagos, everybody goes. Everybody goes there. Everybody plies on these roads. Everybody plies on this, goes to these markets. The prices, you see. But they don't care. And I see some people say, Barrow went to America, he met Sarahules, he had offered to Sarahule Bank, and everything. People refuse to see what is in it for them. If there is a Sarahule Bank in the Gambia, Barrow is going to have a share of probably. He's probably thinking of investing in a bank. What better way to launder money if you are an investor in a bank yourself? Everything they do and say they have something in it. Everything for them is a game. And that's how we've been reduced. And that's the reality. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. Now, if you come to the technical financial proposal you were talking about of this particular project, I'm sorry I derailed a bit.
It's all linked. It's all linked because now, in fact you wrote a fantastic piece, the African elites and their manipulation of their tribesmen. We'll come to that, and you have to do the post-mortem of that, together with Ben, because that encompasses all these tribalism things, and definitely you wrote about divided between the two useless factions. I only hope people will follow you up. you know, because you almost talk about everything that we are discussing now. So if people has followed you up, it will have been fantastically easy, you know, for us to know. So, but we will come to those. Definitely, these are all linked. They cannot live in isolation. They cannot all stand in isolation. We have to link them all the time. So you are on track. Definitely. Before coming back to you, Omar Sao and Nene Aisatunjai, you know, are all make comments here, and Lamin Gambia also. I will read the comments later on, but I don't just want to cut Mustapha here. These are important. Go ahead, Mustapha.
Okay, so the technical and financial proposal has not been, because the institution that is supposed to look at that technical and financial proposal is the public-private partnership. So as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen it. They claim it exists, but I haven't seen it. But I've had former employees of Security Report, even though I don't have evidence of this, but shown me receipts. And they claim those receipts are authentic, that Security Report United States actually is allegedly buying electronic gates, you know, those electronic gates they have at the airport for $26,000, and reportedly to their subsidiaries in Africa for $309,000 United States dollars. So we could even be talking about price inflation, and which, if you ask me, is criminal behavior, because it shows up your worth of investment to a level that does not exist. That could be true. I'm not sure. I have no evidence to support this. But that's what some of their former staff I spoke to have said. So if you see, that is the reason why it's important for government institution to subject all PPPs to a due diligence test. In fact, if you read the legal opinion of the Ministry of Justice, it's very detailed. And it talks about all these things. It told them considerably to do, and the advice were repeated: do due diligence on X, Y, and Z. In fact, they even asked them to do the Security Report as a company, whether it even has the technical and the financial wherewithal to execute the projects that they are giving them. They refused to do it. They didn't do it, because there is an agency that is established to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, if they tell you, if lawyers of the country told you, take this to NAWEC for advice. NAWEC is the only institution with technical capacity to seek advice from, and you didn't take it there, my conclusion would be not clearly. Exactly. So those are the kind of issues. And regarding their worth of investment, I actually asked them that explicit question. And their response was, this is a national security issue. They cannot tell me that, all the specifics. I told them, what software are you using? I heard they are using RaidMine. RaidMine, you can Google it. It's a software. I heard they are using RaidMine. That's what some of their former staff told me. They are using RaidMine. That's what I had. So they wouldn't tell me their investment word. They wouldn't tell me the software they are using. And in terms of the cost government incurred, this is a procurement. You see, I mean, it's sad that some of the people involved in this negotiation are economists. And economists ought to know that cost is not just when you come and say, I'm spending $10. That's not just cost. No. You know, even your staff commitment to a project is a cost. Because when you take an immigration officer from his post, immigration officers in Banjul are paid to do some job. If you take them from that post to do another job, that's cost to that project. That's a cost, because you are committing a staff to a particular private project. That's a cost. So even the manpower we are committing to the project itself is a cost. And not to talk of the tax exemptions, the fact that they're not paying expatriate quota, the tax exemptions, illegal as they may be, they cost. Dispose the office spaces we are. But they don't quantify all those things. So they do not even know That's why even the auditors, if you read the audit report, auditors are telling you we may in fact have contributed more to this project than the security report, because they've seen and quantify all contributions we are making to this. Because, you know, the so-called task force, the so-called, can you imagine, they even went to Sierra Leone for some so-called study tour, and that's all on taxpayers. You see. So that's the thing.
The tax break in monetary term, because we know the security profit deal has caused possible financial loss to more than nearly 274.9 million to the Gambian state. Rough estimate, you know, but they have tax break. We give them offices free. You know, whatever they are doing, almost everything is free for this company, and still there is every chance that we contribute even more than them, you know.
Absolutely. And you know, the tax, it's important to state that the tax calculation that is in our story, it's based on what GRA call administrative assessment. Now, that is, for example, you walk into Malagan right now, and I have a laptop, I have 2 laptops and a phone, and I have a book, and you look at our business worth, you go online, you look at our investment worth, you just basically assume that, okay, Malagan probably makes, let's say $100,000 a year. So you assess, you tax us based on that. That's called administrative assessment. You are assuming our income, and you tax us on that. But GRA does not do that. Ordinarily, in a normal circumstances, GRA would rather have they would rather have your account statements, and they tax you on your profit, your audited accounts, and they tax you on profit. So, but you don't get to do that, give them that opportunity if you don't file returns. So these people don't even get to that point. They don't file returns. So GRA just does what is called an administrative assessment, and they keep it, knowing that they will not pay tax, because these people have already told them, well, we have a tax exemption and it's in our contract. And when I picked up that issue with them, that contract is not a law in itself. Contract drives its legitimacy from law.
Yes.
You see, contract is based on law of this country. But your contract is in violation of our tax laws. And what they told me was, well, that's up to the Gambia government. We have signed a contract with them, and we said this contract, they must effect necessary legislations to make sure this contract is in operations. So that's not on us, it's on them. That's what they told me. And so that means that sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to interject again. Mr. Darboe, I want you to I know you have touched on all these things, issues I'm going to throw back at you, but I want you as a summary to explain to viewers exactly what you believe has happened here. Is this contract all one-sided if you look at it? Does it tell you that the company have everything to gain? And if a government should be looking after the interests of the Gambian people, how comes that the company able to determine the entirety of benefits to be of the company? Why did I say this? One, the similarity of this project to other projects that have gone through the Office of President, through the Permanent Secretary for Investment, which looks like a structural corruption. And as you said, to evade scrutiny from the GIPA, evade scrutiny from the Minister of Trade, evade scrutiny from the Minister of Finance, the PPP mechanism in there. But again, the failure to use the alternative we have, this is unsolicited. This is an unsolicited contract, as you put in your report. We have other alternative. We have a program sponsored by the Japanese that are used on our land borders. We could have been integrated at the airport. We have a system already with Interpol that could have been adjusted to be used, but we ignore those alternatives that would not have cost the Gambian people anything. But another point is the ignoring of advice. They ignore the advice of Minister of Justice to do the due diligence necessary to look into the company, to look into other components of the contract to make sure it's fit for purpose. Now that's deliberate. But another point is the failure of this company to think of taking a legal suit if they thought they have a case. But instead they took another route of pushing the government. Why do they have the audacity to push the government if they had a case to this in here? You mentioned the company former employee. How many people did you think, Gambians you think are employed? Or those position employed, are they skill based? Or how much, I mean, compared to how much Americans or non-Gambians are employed on this? And on the collection of funds as well, as stated in your report, at the beginning, they failed to open a joint account, but later until later they have to do that. That financial leak, can you just summarize all this again to give us the position of the report? What do you think have happened?
So with regards to the contract, clearly I have spoken to a lot of people in a lot of institutions, whether it's the Ministry of Justice and other institutions. And we have all come to a conclusion that that the contract is actually very bad. It's a very bad contract. I'm sorry, the lightning in my place is getting darker and darker.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So that's the conclusion, and that the contract is a very bad contract. That the government should review it because it's very one-sided. So just one of the first things is that they get to decide who the managing director is going to be. So they appoint the managing director at any point. We don't appoint the managing director, and we don't. So that means that gives them an opportunity to even open accounts for the project without our consent or without our participation. You could see the early accounts that were opened squarely by them, and they had used funds from those accounts without the approval of the government. So clearly, a lot of things are there. They don't have a minimum investment requirement in the contract. In fact, they put it in the contract that it shall be their sole discretion to determine the nature and the worth of investment. So clearly, there is no minimum investment requirement, the tax breaks, a lot of things. I have reviewed this before, and I've summarized them in some of the in the story, I think. Those are issues that are there, and that goes to show you that if there was proper due diligence, we have gotten to that point. So the second thing that the Minister of Justice was not listened to, but that's not new in the Gambia. I mean, there are significant nuances where you have government, you have Office of the President go ahead with a procurement issue or a contract that Minister of Justice told them otherwise. You will be surprised if you go to Minister of Justice and you have access to some of their legal opinion. You will be surprised. There are a lot of projects we are talking about currently. A number of them, the Minister of Justice had advised against it, and you know the level of greed and unthinking behavior in Banjul is scandalous. I mean, some of you may remember a time when there was a fraudulent investor in the Gambia who said he wants to build a country in River Gambia. Does any one of you remember that?
Yes,
they said a Russian investor wants to build a country on the island.
Yes.
So some of those are fraudulent investors. Or for example, Reni. There is so much greed and so much. I mean, these people are this. I mean, it's a shame. They've reduced us to. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, some small boy, just 1 year older than me, comes here. He had access to the Office of the President. Read our investors, the investors who do not invest, the story on our website. You would have said, Reni, It took us less than a week to be able to. I met some government senior people, and I told them this guy is a fraud. I told them X, Y, and Z that we've been following on some of his activities, and some of them who are good, who meant good, because there are good people in the system. They complied, and they told me, okay, we will be able to communicate with him, and we will tell him next time to go to Gaipa. Before our story, he went to a particular ministry, and someone wrote to him to say, we are sorry, but if you are an investor, start from Gaipa. They know now, because they don't want to go to Gaipa. They don't want to deal with professionals. They want to deal with clowns. So they go to all this bunch of advisors, and this bunch of advisors take them straight to the president. And you wonder what any at State House, because you are exposing. I mean, I remember when the Prince Charles was coming. I think it's Prince Charles then, now King Charles, I think. When he was coming to the Gambia, there was, as part of their press circulation, they circulate an information that you can't take a picture with him, that you can't take a selfie with him, that he can't be in your background and you pretend you take, because they do that because people can take a picture with Prince Charles and go and use it to defraud others and say, well, I am in touch with the royal family, etc. And these people, they come have access to our president. And in fact, a colleague of mine just simply is working on a fraud case where some guy comes here. He never met any other guys from Gaipa, but he claims to have met officials from Gaipa. But he surely met people from office of the president, and he's a big person, a so-called investor. So that is they're opening our institution out of greed, the most important office of this country, around to a level that it's unbelievable. So that is what this kind of shackles cause. You know, it takes investors who are no investors to our most important office, and it exposes the president to danger, to manipulation, to fraud. You see, but you can read some on some of these investors that goes to State House. So that is the consequences that comes with when the go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. Thank you,
Ben. I think you are mute.
So much. No. You know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. If you can turn your light on, if there's any light, Mustapha, that will be fine. If not, you know.
Well, okay. Yes, there should be light here. Except I have to move.
Yeah. That's fine. I'll get to Ben. You know, it will be important to at least have some little bit of light there. You know, brother Ben, and before coming to you, I have a Professor Noah Sise here. I say, thank guys. This is very educative and always. And as always, my friend EB, thanks for always bringing people who knows what they are talking about. Keep it up. And Nene Aisatunjai says, brilliant findings and reporting. Thank you, Mustapha. Journalism at its finest. Thank you, my dear Uncle Ben, for his outstanding service to the country. I can't agree more. And Lamin Gambia said, tribalism is a tactic in African politics. Unfortunately, even intellectuals fail under this trap. In Gambia, anti-Mandinka sentiment carry a huge weight in Gambian politics and is spreading across all institutions. So sad, you know, and also Nene says, this government is dangerous. We must protect credible reporters and whistleblowers, you know, for the benefit of the nation, and their safety is the key. You know, we have a Mariam C also saying greetings, and Lampard Barry says, brother, honestly speaking, keep it up. Brother Ben, and you know, to contextualize all this, you know, we know the president, you know, and his cabal and the government and all those things are only swimming in the pool of corruption. That's a fact, because and Ben, corruption is the most dangerous thing for any country to be overwhelmed with corruption. You know, because people are dying because of corruption. Roads are not good, accident because of corruption. You know, hospitals, people are dying there. People are killing each other. I say this because, you know, brother Ben, you know, the security sector reform non-existent.
Yeah.
The anti-corruption bill is
None.
just rotting on somebody's table there. They are not interested. Civil service reform, they are not interested. In fact, they are now creating another ministry to add to the exactly to the already they admit this civil service need to be reduced. And they are good for nothing, you know. So we need to trim them, that we need to reform. Instead of reforming, they are opening another ministry to add more into the nonsense that we have. The PPA, you know, the private, you know, public procurement authority bill has been there since 2019. Nobody cares about it, you know. So, you know, what do you think now? You know, the public-private partnership also, to reform that also, they are not caring.
Ebrima, you mute there, but
all right, thank you. We're back. You know, what a relief. You know, so Brother Ben, what then? You know, is the role of the Gambians? What is the Gambian people doing about this? You know, two. You know, why is the National Assembly? What is their role in this failure? This is not only about the borough government and all those things. I know everything. The buck stop to stop the president and civil servants and all these political parties. They just switch off. They just switch off, Brother Ben, and they rest on.
Thank you. Let me just take on here. Brother Ebrima is having challenges with his network, but again, Brother Ebrima, that's why it's important when Mr. Darboe alluded or made the statement to explain how corruption leads to human rights abuses. In many instances, Gambian will tell you, apart from human rights abuses, even Janneh is better than Barrow. But I keep on telling Gambians to remember one thing, that Janneh came through the barrel of the gun. And if Barrow is behaving this way, and he came through the democratic process, imagine if Barrow have come through the barrel of the gun. Now, the important point is here, because of corruption to keep themselves, protect themselves, they will do anything possible in order to be safe. And that means that they will enable, they will fail, they made so the security reform fail, so that they can use the same institution that Janneh used in order to entrench themselves. They will use the mechanisms of divide and control. That's why we are divided. And this point we talked about tribalism as a mechanism is a fact. Now, the other fact too is even to polarize our politics, because that's why you have so many political parties, and most of them, 90% of political parties in Gambia are not political parties, but they are used as mechanism to divide, to bring pluralism in our politics. You see, the same thing with civil society. 90% of civil society are just out there to create jobs for themselves or to seek for attention. Now, that again too is dividing the civil society organization, and this government would corrupt, not only corrupt political parties, they will corrupt society as a whole, and by corrupting society as a whole, they are corrupting civil society. Some of the civil society actors are working with government because of in order to undermine the opposition, or to undermine the interests of the people. This is what Gambians should understand. Now, the failure here is not only Barrow. The failure is Gambia itself. The failure is the people. But again, leadership matters. Leadership matters. Because when you see the executive power, Barrow is using the executive power, abusing the executive power, undermining the legislative assembly, and undermining society as it is by using corruption. This is one thing Gambians should understand. That's why it's important to have these conversations. It's not to, it's to inform people to change their mindset, so that we don't react to the provocation of tribe, so that we don't react to the provocation or be distracted by other so-called political forces, so that we can concentrate and engage to impact in holding this government accountability. The aim and objective here should be accountability, and accountability will bring out the results that we want, which is the progress that we ask for and the stability. That's why it's very important to note that we should not they have discussions, we expect people to act on this. And I am appealing to people, as I said, to whom more is given, more is expected. Gambians who have privilege to have little education, Gambians who have privilege to have little means to have a voice should have their voice. Gambians in institutions or organizations, political parties that have bigger following should take that as a blessing and take it as a mandate and a responsibility. You don't necessarily have to be the government, but being in opposition is part of governance. Use that strength that's given to you, the votes that are given to you, the recognition that's given to you to impact, in order to continue the process. It's a continuous process. It's not going to elections and get things changed. You might go to elections and it fails, but you continue into it. Whilst you are in opposition, you are part of governance. You don't have to be government, the person that won the elections to bring about change, but you can impact from where you are. This is why Gambians should change our mindset to understand that we might have our different opinions or the different positions we hold, but one thing should keep us and bind us together is the interest of this nation and to put this nation forward.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I'm going to digress a little bit, Mustapha. You have a very, very, very important piece, that boils my heart, but it's well written to the extent that I love it. I read it a couple of times, the African elites and their manipulation of their tribesmen. Mustapha, tell us what do you mean? And I can sometimes see your frustrations in your piece. Because sometimes back in September and on the 2nd, you said the corrupt in Banjul, they cut your tongue out, they are ruthless, they entice, bribe, and even assault your income. They force your hands. And if that does not work, as it didn't during the days of Yahya Jammeh, they become violent. How can you connect this with the African elites and their manipulation of their tribes? What do you mean there? Just give us the context, please.
So you see, the truth is that things are where they are because this society have lost compassion as the central pillar of governance. Compassion, I mean, for everybody to have a decent shot at life. So I try to tend to start a bit far to be able to address an issue. So this country, the idea of a country being poor is ridiculous. A country has enough capital to invest. A country either makes a poor investment or a right investment. The idea that there is some poor country is stupid, except if you have no sense. Because a country that can even generate, let's even stop at 12 billion a year, can actually invest and get out of poverty if it plans, for example, for 10 years or 20 years. So a country cannot be poor. A country is either managed well or mismanaged. Now, the Gambia has been mismanaged from independence. And we've been mismanaged by liars. We've been mismanaged by thieves, by people who have no compassion. People who come to you in the name of we are one, but in fact, don't believe in that.
Definitely.
Come to think of it, I have recently done a story about some children being abused. And these children comes from our society. If what the elites do in this country, the elites do, is to be on the side of ethnicity or their people, they would have done something about it. But no, that's not what they care about. Look at the poverty in this. You look at Janneh, for example, and you look at Fonyi. It's one of the most poor regions in this country. Flies on that road in a $1 million car, go to poverty and drive out of poverty and pass through poverty and comes to Banjul, a 5-star hotel. State House is a 5-star hotel. It's an institution. It's a party place built and maintenance by taxpayers. The food is served on our money. The dresses are ironed on our money. The toilet papers are brought in on our money. Everything is our money. The staff protocol officers who take care of everything are paid our money. State House is a 5-star hotel. So he rides out of a 5-star hotel on a $1 million car, go to Fonyi, poverty, pass through poverty, stay in poverty, in the midst of that luxury, and comes back. But he keeps telling some particular tribe that this other tribe hate you, and tell the other tribes that these other tribes hate you. And those things, they bought it. So they are busy killing each other. But for him, but he is stealing their money. If he really cares about them, why would he steal their money? Or if he does have a sentiment that particular tribe A is better than tribe B, why isn't he giving money to tribe A that is better? Why is tribe A in poverty and in misery? Why is every tribe in the Gambia in misery, if actually there is someone who thinks the tribes are better? So that's the thing. So they sold the people something to take hold of. They give them false victory, false sense of happiness, you see, so that they are able to steal from them. What's the reality? You see, so that is what I meant by the elites and the manipulation of the people and the tribe. Because when you do manipulate the people and the tribe, you neutralize the sense of thought. So such that I am Mandinka from Badibu. If I go to people of Badibu seeking for a vote to be whatever in the region, I can tell them I'm Mandinka. Probably the entire majority of the people in that region may be Mandinka. I can tell them I'm Mandinka. Instead of telling them about a mandate and my capacity to address that mandate, I tell them I'm Mandinka because that's the easiest. You tell them you're Mandinka and you don't have to do anything. They just jump and excited and they vote for you on the basis that you are who you are. So that's easy because 1, you don't have to prove anything. 2, you don't even have to have sense. And 3, even if you mess up, they still find excuses for you. And 4, even if you mess up, they still are adamant you will not even be taken to court, because taking you to court is taking Mandingaya to court.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
Yes, definitely.
You see, you've seen it, the same thing with Janneh, the same thing with any other individual. So they've made their tribes believe that they are the embodiment of the tribe. But the question is, what do they do for that tribe? Darboe was struggling to get a visa to Germany. But he was deported from Germany, but now his children are going to America, not so. During COVID, they said his child, they even praise him for going to a quarantine because he is not part of the mayor motors. But the normal Fula people and the normal Saraule people that he claims to be so close to now, they are suffering. When they come, they go, they act like any other person. But his son and himself, he keeps flip-flopping among tribes because he tries to manipulate the people. I mean, that's what it means. Janneh, initially at the beginning, didn't he tell us he's Mandinka? He's a descendant of Mama Tamba and all that. Exactly. He came initially, he was Mandinka, of course. He said Mandinka. Then he started murmuring underneath, I am Fula. Then he started going to Sarauleza. So it's all about manipulation. They don't care about anybody. But look at it, their personal wealth grow from 1 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. But the personal wealth of the people they claim to represent and care about, where is that? It keeps shrinking because this country does not progress. It's retarding.
Yeah, Mustapha, education.
Yeah, so that is what I mean by the ethnic manipulation. It's not true. I am not, by that, I don't want to be misunderstood. I do not mean that the people are not abused. There is no ethnic issue. What I am trying to say is that whatever may comes across as tribalism is in fact a manipulation that's being engineered by people who are controlling that narrative. But the narrative does not serve the poor person. The poor person is merely a carrier of the vector. It's merely a carrier of the disease. But the disease is engineered. It's created. It's a biological weapon, so to speak, that's created by the elite and given to the poor person. And the poor person is carrying the disease from one individual to another, in the understanding that he is also helping his tribe and he is fighting for his dignity. But it's a lie. You understand what I mean?
No, it is a lie, and
that's what I'm trying to say. Yes,
technology that they have works because this and the elite, the so-called politicians, they manipulate the people just to pilfer them. They pilfer their resources, and we are fighting on this massive bond given to us by Sugutarians, and we are busy on that. And while they are just doing whatever they do, they are not interested. Mustapha, but the elite's weapon that you call,
Ebrima,
yes, Ben, go ahead. Go ahead.
Two things there before we move.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because Mr. Darboe have just made it brilliant. The two things I want to point out is to point that it's just a mechanism is two things. That no individual person is representing a tribe interests, but their individual interests and their cabal interests. What's the proof of this is all of these people are intermarried. Their families are intermarried into other tribes. If they are not, their brothers or their sisters are married to other tribes. That means that their nieces and nephews belong to other tribes. Would they ever, before anything, they will empower those people before they empower somebody else? They will not look at those people tribes. What they look at is the bloodline. Nepotism might be of truth than tribes as something else. Two, there's no politician who would ever be powerful to bring out a law or a policy that will completely come out to discriminate against other tribes. It's impossible because it's going to be challenged. It's going to be against our constitution. Now, Gambians have to remember this. Now, if anyone is empowered or anybody happens to able to do things, it's because of we allow it. Because we elect them to office or we allow them to.
Go ahead, Brother Ben. Yeah, you were pregnant before. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the point I want to note, that is for us to be educated about this, to understand that it's a mechanism, that it cannot be practicable to benefit any particular tribe, but it's to benefit the individual and his family and the people he is in club with to do what they want to do. Because we are intermarried, and secondly, our constitution, you cannot bring out a policy or law that
Brother Ben, I will hold on to you. You are breaking there. Brother Ben, you are breaking there very seriously.
You can continue.
I will hold on to you. You are breaking. Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, I can hear you. Continue. You can go ahead, Ebrima.
He can hear you. He can hear you.
I think,
and I can hear him too. Are you sure it's Ben or you?
It's Ebrima. I think it's Ebrima.
I think it's him. Yes, yeah, I think it's him.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Yeah, it's Ebrima. Yeah. Yeah, Mustapha. I mean, I think we can continue. He will jump in again. To continue to explain this, I think I would say that it has been happening and it continues to happen. And it's important now that it's been discussed from the colonials to when we had our independence. This narrative have continued. It's not something new, and until we understand this and start to discuss this and to be conscious of it, we will continue to fail. We will not hold people accountable because we believe that they represent us or they are protecting us, whilst that's not the fact. They don't protect us, they don't represent us, but in fact, they expose us. They expose the entire country to instability. Because in any society that it continued, it's not sustainable. Things will end up going in a manner, people will react to it, or the entire economy, or what we all share would just disintegrate. And the point of compassion and
in fact,
yeah. Go ahead, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the point of empathy.
In fact, yes. if you want to look at the practicality, yeah. Exactly. If you look at the practicality of the kind of politics they sell to the average person, because it looks sellable in the sense that they they play to your better self, people's sense of belonging, people's sense of dignity, that I am this, I am that. They play to that sentiment, and they give you a false sense of value, of self-worth. But if you look at the practicality of the tribe within the context of government, understood that when a country is established, state institutions are established to offer services, and those services are offered to citizens. So such that Nawek cannot Nawek cannot give electricity to Mandinkas and deny Manjagos, right? So Nawek cannot function in a normal way for a tribe and not for another tribe. It's not practical. Nawek can only be better if Nawek functions for all the tribes. It's not even practical for Nawek for any service that state offers to be offered to a tribe. It's not practical. The second thing, and which is the most important thing, is that they sold you an idea that you could by voting for us, you are voting for an interest. But there is a reason that there is a group win. There is a group win kind of a situation here. But there is a reason why Nelson Mandela says, I fought black domination, same way I will fight black domination, same way I fought white domination.
Yes.
Because you see, when you empower your group to oppress one group, you are also exposing your group to retaliation. So you don't love them. You don't love them. You don't empower someone you love to abuse the other.
No.
The only reason why any tribe in this country will have peace is when there is equitable society that serves everybody. So that everybody's right will be respected. The Mandinka will have his rights respected. The Fula will have his rights respected. The Jola will live in dignity. Everybody will live in dignity. But when you empower one tribe to oppress the other, you are creating a confusion that is going to effectively harm every one of them, including one you supposedly love. And now, how do you expose people that you love to civil war? That's ridiculous. You see, so that is the kind of a lie they told the people. But we know the undertone, the reality is that it's a lie. They don't go out of the street and take other people's children because they are members of their tribe and take them to America or private schools or private hospitals. They don't do that. Do they? The people they walk past by, hungry people on the roads, they don't give them money because they belong to their tribes. They don't do that. They walk past by them in a tilted vehicle. They don't care about tribe. If they care about tribe, the task would be to build an equitable society where everybody's right is respected. And that is what serves the Mandinka agenda. That is what, in fact, a Mandinka agenda is. That is what a Fulani agenda is. That is what the Jola agenda is. Because the Jola, the Fulani, whoever tribe you're talking about is a Gambian. And the only way to serve a Gambian is to serve all of the Gambia. You cannot serve a Jola Gambia because the Jola Gambia is a figment of an imagination. It does not exist. There is no such thing called a Mandinka Gambia. It's a figment of the imagination. So they lie, they sell people a lie so that they are able to make money, so that they are not held to account.
Yes.
So that if you go, if you are able to hold people, it's like Nisho Ya Balunde and you have his nose tied to something. You don't have to please them anymore. You have a kind of like me. If I come and Mandinkas say, that's Mustapha Kenabo, we will vote for him because he's Mandinka. That means I have how many 100,000 people already established as voters for me. I don't have to convince them. I don't even have to care about them. I can lie to them in the name of Albe Mandinka Fasala and they just come and vote for me. The same thing any other person is doing, and the same thing Janneh did, the same thing Barrow is doing. He went during the election and he gathered some bunch of people and he told them, if you vote for certain group of people, but those certain group of people were mainly his supporter when he was coming to power. Look at the irony.
Yeah. Exactly.
You see the irony. Those
Mustapha,
are supposedly the UDP base, and the UDP base are the people who bring him to power, and his children are Mandinkas. Himself Mandinka. The mobile force is Mandinka. Why do you think the mobile force is instigating people against the Mandinkas? He is Mandinka. If people now take a machete, killing Mandinkas, they will kill Darboe. He knows that. But why does he ask the people to go after Mandinkas? It's not because he cares about it. When does Darboe become the guardian for the Fulas, or for the Sarawales, or for the Manjakos? It's just because Darboe wants to win, and he wants the privilege he currently enjoys to continue.
And he came out and admit that it was a strategy. He came
exactly.
out.
Exactly. So unless we have a consciousness and we educate the people to understand this, and to understand that this is a republic, and when we say the republic, it means all the people come together and they build a country to serve them and to serve their interests. That is how we create the army, that is how we create the police, that is how we create the immigration, just to serve all of us, you see. So the other thing, they come, because when these people, they created agendas, so they know how to convince us. So they can even say, oh no, but foreigners are coming. They're coming from Janneh. That's a whole different matter altogether. Yeah. All of Gambians can decide what to do with immigration. Mama Kande was just talking about immigration, and he was saying the foreigners are having our ID cards. That's coming from a Fula. He's not saying that is not tribalist in nature, because the Gambian Fula is like the Gambian Mandinka, or like Gambian Jola, but there are Jolas coming from Casamas, there are Mandinkas coming from Casamas, there are Mandinkas coming all the way from Mali, Guinea-Bissau, to Guinea-Conakry, to the Gambia. So when we are dealing with immigration, we talk, that's a whole but different kettle of fish together. We can talk about that in isolation. So they bring immigration to confuse us. Like they say, no, but they're even giving, we are supposed to give ID cards to people. But that's a whole different matter. Immigration debates the whole that all of Gambia's people can sit down and talk about. And there are policies to address that. So they bring all those issues to confuse the people and make it look like there's some tribal Armageddon waiting to happen. But that's the thing, it's selfishness. It is so that they are not held to account. These are people who cannot sit down and convince you of any policy issue. So what do you expect them to do?
And once we are engaged there, we are not talking about the security report. We are not talking about the COVID corruption. We are not talking about all those other issues. They are not being held accountable.
Mustapha and Ben, we're going to move on very soon. We are going to close up anyway to round things up, because people have been here for a month, for almost two hours now. But Mustapha, in some of the solutions that you say, or the problem you said may be the issues behind all this the tribalism, on awareness or whatever, you said the fundamental problem facing our society is poor education, a chronic mental retardation that beats us to this level. We embrace false charity, crumbs from the power that be, false hope, false happiness. We become, in the hands of our own oppressors, their primary tool. We become their primary tool. Referring to a young man that when you talk about correction, tags you and said you are Darboe and you are a Mandinka, you are UDP, you are in pain because Barrow win, even though Barrow said he is a Mandinka. Does that sum up? Or probably somebody somewhere will see somebody in the forefront and they say he's a doctor, he is a PhD holder and all those things, and still peddling this tribal thing. Is that going to send some kind of confusion when we say we have educational problem here and all those things. But education is not only qualification. Tell us about that. And the right team syndrome also comes into play. Even though we're saying this, people buy into these things, our right team, about the Badibunka kids and the Sarakule farmer, but the chicken and shrimps thing also, which is so important and is good to read. I people should go to your Facebook page and read these things. Summarize those for us before we move to the piece that Mahdi write. He says this is no state of national address, and then we will conclude from there. Go ahead, Mustapha.
So actually, what I am trying to say about the issue of education and the importance of that to national consciousness is that if we are educated, if we think for ourselves, we would have clarity. So we would know what is the mandate of the president and what, in fact, why do and what is the terms of reference for the president, and we would just use exactly that. It's like hiring a shopkeeper. When you need a shopkeeper, you don't go looking for a Mandinka or Fula. You go looking for someone who is going to keep your shop for you. Mm-hmm. And if the person steals your money, you kick the person out. You don't say, well, this guy is Fula from Nyamina or Mandinka from Badibu or somewhere. So I have to keep him. You don't do that. You kick them out. When someone messes up your investment, you kick them out. Now, the reason why they sold us the ethnic group, the ethnicity thing, the complex, and I'm not saying people shouldn't love the ethnicity. I think ethnic consciousness is very important. But I am against prejudice. Mm-hmm. Yes. Prejudice is sense of superiority of one group over the other, or selling that kind of education to the people. You see, now what I am trying to say is that when they create that kind of confused environment, they evade accountability, and so that we can no longer provide a checklist for them regarding their TOR. The president is supposed to do this, yes, he's supposed to do that and that and that. Yeah, we give them a free ride, you see, and that is why that is their only interest in ethnicity. So that is the reason why I said people need to be educated to understand what government means. In summary, what government means, so that they know what sort of services should we expect from a government. You see. And so those are important things, so that citizens can provide a checklist for themselves, and they are able to track their government, their president, so that they don't come and tell us any bullshit. To say that Sarawule, our Dinkas are this, or I'm Fula, or Manjago, and this and that. You see, so that we know that this country is a country of multiple citizens, multiple ethnic groups, and that all ethnic groups had an equal stake in the progress of the country, and that we could find a common agenda. Now, the other bit of the education is that if you look at ethnic manipulation in its greater detail, what you see is war of interest, yes, which is also alluding to our failure to provide, to build institutions. So if, for example, I am Mandinka, if, for example, I take over the state right now, if I have the power of a monarchy to fire all army camp managers and make them Mandinkas, fire the CDS and make him Mandinka, fire all the ministers and appoint only Mandinka ministers. You know what that does? That is alluding to a failure of institutions. Yeah. Because where there is accountability, such kind of behavior cannot come from the highest office of the country. So if you are saying, no, Yeah, there is so much nepotism in the system. That is why ethnic alliances are important, so that each ethnic group controls. And each time ethnic group controls, it becomes our turn to eat. Now that is a lie, because ethnic groups cannot have our turn to eat. So, for example, if you are Mandinka and you want to have a Mandinka president, and the Mandinka president just wants to get a Mandinka in every institution, and you happen to have no proper Mandinka educated beta to handle Nawek, and you nevertheless appoint a Mandinka to ruin Nawek, you ruin Nawek for Mandinkas as well.
Exactly.
Exactly. So even by so-called so-called representation of this ethnic agenda, you can be against your own ethnic group, because when you destroy this country by hiring incompetent people from your tribe into a particular institution, you are doing disservice to the people you claim to love. When you empower them to harass others, you are exposing them to repressive attacks. When you create an institutions that encourage nepotism, and you hire elements from your tribe, is through that nepotism. Someday someone would also come, it's going to be a dog-eat-dog world, and also fire all of them and hire his own. So we will keep changing from one clown to another, Instead of that, the only thing that will make this country progress is to build a coalition of willing people who have enough wisdom to understand that the only way out for this country is to build responsive institutions that does not recognize ethnicity. They don't even see it. Responsive institutions that don't ask people, okay, you're Fula, yeah, that means you need to go through a lot of background checks, or you're Mandinka, we don't trust you, or you Jola, that means you are a rebel. I mean, those kind of prejudice cannot come from an educated mind. So that is why I mean by we need to educate the people so that they see things for what they are, and they see manipulations for what they are, and that the society can make progress.
Thank you.
Because otherwise, look at the pathetic state we are. I mean,
yes.
Look at all the incidences we are talking about, all the leakages, corruption we are talking about. Who are the people doing that? I have caught Mandinka thieves, I've caught Wolof thieves, I've caught Fulani thieves, I've caught all kind of thieves. I mean, look at our story, read through our story. There is no monopoly of thieves by any tribe. They are springing up from everywhere. But
that's
yet,
that's true, Mustapha. We have tapestry
exactly
across the board. Ben, I'm coming to you because we're going to round up very soon. Madi says this is no state of the national address. Because he said, the president didn't talk about the prevailing issues and concern and experience of the Gambian people in the country, the contemporary ones, the energy sector. We know how the energy sector is. The president failed to address the issues of the country. Transport unions are in strike, and the president didn't mention it. He forgot about it completely. Deliberate amnesia. Government's ministries and agencies are renting. No talk about that. Security sector reform, no reform. Anti-corruption bill, nothing. President doesn't talk about that. He briefly tell us about the new draft constitution, but no timeline is given according to Madi's arguments. The poor utilities and services in the country, we are all aware of it. Poor health, care, and cost of living, everything. But no, the Gambia is fantastic. It's a land of opportunity. It's the Mecca and all those things in the United States. Everything in the Gambia is fine, according to the president's state's address. But Madi says, no, this is no state of the nation address. Ben, what do you think? Do you agree with Madi, or do you have any other thing that you can add to this? He didn't talk about the post secondary school results also, and poor quality of our education. The white papers on the TRRC recommendation. Mustapha wrote a fantastic piece. We will not have time to discuss that.
No.
The suspect officer remains as government stall on TRRC recommendation. Fantastic piece, Mustapha, but time will not allow us. I cannot allow you to go beyond 2 hours. Then go ahead.
No, I completely agree with Mari. And to say this again is the failure of accountability. You see, the president understands that he's not going to be held accountable by parliament. The president understands that the public are not going to hold him accountable because their mechanism is already working, because they keep the people ignorant, they keep the people divided, and they can just come and grace the occasion. I mean, formality that the president have addressed the nation. The content of the address would not be discussed. And that's why he can come out and read something written for him just to go away. When he was making that address that night, there was no electricity in Banjul. And in fact, babies died in incubators. And other people have complications for their operations. That's how bad it was. But again, the standard of living, everybody heard about it. You see, if in comparison, what was supposed to happen is for the president to engage the parliamentarians to discuss these issues. But he would not. You think in the House of Parliament, what would have happened in the United Kingdom? Every issue would have been dealt with. Yeah. Then the president did not give factual. Actually, what he did, he was to come and lie to the nation. He fabricated data, he fabricated information and passed that information. Then the president should have been put for perjury, for perjury, to come into parliament and lying to parliament and lying to the people. This is all he did. The issues that are meant to be discussed were not discussed. And again, a typical example is to mention the draft constitution or a draft constitution, to mention it. There's no action to be taken. And I'll tell you, the government would play it to their advantage until Gambians hold the government accountable, until parliament hold government accountable, until civil society hold government accountable, the people hold government accountable. They will keep on doing the formalities and every year on, year out, the same thing until, the failure of holding government accountable, what it brings is complete instability. The choice is ours. If we want a progressive Gambia, we should ignore any distraction. We should ignore all this form of separation and come together as Republicans to hold the government accountable in order to improve our lives and livelihoods. If we fail to do that, we are encouraging and accepting the impunity in corruption, impunity in anything. And what will happen, the injustice, what will happen is it's not sustainable, Ibrahim. The country is going to be destabilized. People don't want to hear that, or some people don't want to hear that, thinking that you are wishing the country to be destabilized. No, we are warning the people based on evidence. This is what happens everywhere else. When Liberia failed, when Rwanda failed, when Sierra Leone failed, when Ivory Coast failed, it's the same recipe. We cannot be putting everything together as those countries and expect for us to defy logic. We cannot. It's not because of we are 90% Muslim. It's not because of we are 10% Christians. No. It's because of the character of the people we have. It's because of the leadership we have. It's because of how proactive are we in participating in holding a country intact so that accountability will ensure. It was a complete, useless exercise, and nothing comes out of it until Gambians make sure accountability and so.
Thank you, Ben. And I heard they spent about $13 million for people to go ahead, and take Barrow to make this speech, and the assobies, the cookings, and all those things that they do is about 13 million. That 13 million can put a proper solar panel on the Edward Francis Small Hospital, and provide some water there, boreholes and all those, and so that we can have continuous electricity. Once again, we have to stop here. My guests are going to just give their closing remarks, and we will go. Normally, I will read all the comments, but today I just want to give them the time so that they can express themselves, because we have two people on the panel. And greetings to Sulayman Kamara and Klaus A. Barry Drame Yanks Baba also. and also Nene Aisatunjai. I think Nene Aisatunjai should come to Gunjur online so that we can discuss it anyway. So Ben, I will make sure she comes so that, and my own brother Jinio Bite also, greetings to you and all the viewers all over the place. You know, one thing that this fantastic discussion, you know, just on earth is we are all the same. Let's come together, because if we come together and give our hands to each other, we can move earth, because that's why we move the dictatorship easily when Gambians come together. Let's come together for the sake of, you know, the people that are dying, the women that are dying, giving life to our kids and all those things. I had an audio of a woman who was saying they are now afraid to get pregnant, to give life for the continuation of that country. You know, so let's also not be bamboozled also that the Gambia is a special country, that is the prayers are keeping us going and all those things. That is not true. You know, so the corruptions and the immorality that is going on, the indecency, you know, lack of dignity that is going on in that country, you know, definitely is beyond belief. You know, Mustapha Saimbe Minkelambe chance dilela pour yela summarize yela closing remark it might be in 1 or 2 minutes, you know, everything I mean discourse, you know, pour say word dinner, you know, to dignify was even more, because definitely I'm really proud to have you here, and I'm proud to call you a brother, you know, for all the fantastic work that you're doing on behalf of our country, you know, to your own risk, you know, because this is so risky. I know what it entails, you know. Ben, you know, you can after no Ben, you're not going to give a closing remark. Only Mustapha. Yes, Mustapha, go ahead. Probably any local language, Mustapha. You know,
you mean in local language? You want me to do that in local language?
Yes, in any local language you're comfortable with, you know.
So actually, well, malo nyimbe summarize no la nyadira wo. But anyway,
go
yeah,
ahead.
anyway, what I can say in 7 for no long, from country boka coming electional undineti banku do, like electional wokola ujamala banku do mas time, and banku do buka keno kafonyin kamani manke president watenta banku do ni banku do sauko be sabatiring aba lorin ku jamal one na media ba do ko kelale civil society yalake mansakunda executive president wala la moli la do ko ka nyama national assembly men be duala karola fana la do ko ka nyama deputy, and so banko kata progress ke wala ya. Okay, so ntola jang kita jang wala science en ko be nyame molu the responsibility to comment. Molu mantra do ko ke kan men yanda kala ananyanda kala nyame.
Yes, sir.
And so whether because niaji be tapale amembe caring public sector bankola na flola tinyaro amukula ti me alon ase lo no le lo se keno ala le hani atla president wala the National Assembly, civil society, media be la do ko kenyanda kala nyame pol bitano anyama yo. So mobuka dolla jan sai menke da wala system won to taka nyama, and then civil society, media, and the National Assembly fundamental do working kanya. Amera wala na problem tarian. Wala ground, wala wajabin. Yo, so fonse molse la doko kanu ya kanyama ye public official fana ye bula doko mena yalong. Pomol se faham yalo man se kunda do ko mo munet man san to ka tombon dali juma rek so that ibajela na menke ani na mantra siloka is halon fana akata siloka yo wala mbanku do kuwate sometimes in kajela komin to lajan nimmo ko mansa e jineke mansa e se modo jaay kamfa ka foni mantol la mansa kanu mansa tela mansa mo tamanke mansa kay mo bela do kula so dintama pare dintama desit mansa ka jo mol bela kodo e wala ka fama ka balunda ka domoro fanasa to lajan na mansa hani domoro to ler ka sa so in other countries in America, for example, I had president wala bill sola la private bill sola fa wala ka wala ala kodo ndolla jantol president wala bill wala fa wala ka wallahi so on kamo men balon den kana afo e fana nyinke kana so we ken wala so for more say wala understand mun man sa kunda do ko muneti ani man sala do ku man sanyanta munekela pour ngalon be man sa tindi wala silo ka nyawe
Abaraka bake Mustapha mbeten tulambe jayila gunjur online we are dignified. We are very, very honored, for you to dignify us with your presence, for you to be here. Ila time mume be kanyi wato be kejam kacha kan nyoso hakilola ka bantaba kacha ke pour moli se mira ngana interest jibe ba kujama komi ya fana malla ko Gambia mu fari bankolti mi ya lonko kujama nkata no madula do ton sa soto no Gambia bare niaje mbebe nyin situation kono nyin sifa kono nganya closely nganya tawunne ko chicken and chips ko nkai ko shrimps ngamra Mustapha wala for chicken and chips after shrimps la somebody nata ko nyimu sise dampang waleti and chips and a lot of wala so ninga woje salon na banko le resources min bije nyele min ka soto je the black sign min kataraje the bad watching min bije as tourist attractions ke anin fen jama mo jama fintita wol ma nyenna ala fintila je taranye situation ko and poverty nin corruption aka moli fala dinnin jelen tolla gunju last 3 months or over 150 dinni wol mi yalon ko kulungo tata vanista malo hadi bi abedami dinnin du sudol kono dinnin sabe bije corruption ole wo sabu because dinni wol ka bori min na banko kay kata nyini wandi mudulato probably ni wobe la banko ka woli dol sekla ni ku jama so nyi ya sabule nyanta kambennale na nyin nonsense tribalism ku village because ni konte ko imu janele ti da may ko nyemu mandin ko te ku jamale tu koma ba wonte ba mfa ba o mu fulo dagar wala ti mi yalon ka bota ko se marle ndefa mu Scattred janeleti there's a lot of story behind Scattred so ni jane da maji be do ko nyimu janeleti amu mandin ko leti so Gambia bebe wala nyama be mixed wala nyama nyin tribal nonsense nga bulaje nga focus nga na banko da ni leader min nata ama bankola interest saf ko barobe minna is not serving the interest of the country mbenga denga bondije nga na leader do fe na je nen leader soli alon kon ka woleke ibe silala na ba leader sol ma silana because ndol we allow corruption ndol fa we are corrupt ndol we allow immorality ndol fa we are immoral so ku bije leader soli nje wala nyama e kansamba wala nyama mbe programme o dandal na jiberal be dawdan bal be tentulam bal jayila gunjur online la management o mi yalon ko yemuta amasingoto Abubakar ani lamen jamme be tentulam be jayila fankotoma Sulayman ben Suwareh be tantula my head is down for you for all the good jobs ibe minke kam banko and banko mole ala baraka once again until next time. Thank you Mustapha Darboe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, okay, bye.
Thank you, Mr.
What makes us unique is, even looking at our slogan, which says innovative property solutions. We've been innovative from day one. Over the last 15 years, we've been bringing new ideas in front, providing solutions for housing, both affordable, medium, and high end. I think one of the things that we always say that if you're serious about acquiring a property, if you come to Global Properties, we'll find a solution for you regardless of your status and what you're doing.